login failure from the TDL site.
Oh, I just installed some new anti-spam thing. I was getting so many spam calls, especially the forums. They were getting absolutely hammered.
Yeah.
It's blocked
I get access denied now.
That's weird.
This site is protected by the Stop Spammer Registrations plugin.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And it's denied you.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can... 'cause it's supposed to only block the spam ones, because I can see all the spam ones being it blocks. But it shouldn't block you.
Been blacklisted.
Yeah. That's a pain, that, isn't it, when you get something that seems to work, but...
Yeah.
I wonder if there's just... which email address do you use?
I just log in with my username, which is database Jace.
Because there's a way of unblocking, sort of whitelisting. But I think it does it by email address.
Yeah, I'm not sure what email address I use to register now.
Well, what I can do is... I'll just quickly check the history. Because what I can do is I can just disable the plugin while to get you on there.
Okay.
But I'm just going to check to see if I can see why, because it shows the last sort of 50 attempts. It's blocked 2,783 today.
Oh wow.
Definitely there you go. I can see. Yeah, you're blocked because you've got a red herring.
Have I?
No, well, why would that be?
Maybe it's like the last pass.
Maybe. Now I can add your IP address.
Yeah, which is fixed, so.
To the good IP address list. So if I go back to here. Yeah, so then I won't do that again. It must be something to that last pass. It must be detecting that.
Yeah, it does send a funny string.
Right, let's just do that. I'll send the link out while I'm doing this. I think I'm getting a cold. Right.
Yeah, sounds like it. Oops. It's too eager.
Yeah, I'm just finding where there's a whitelist. There we go, whitelist.
Yeah, your older spent the day off school today. Was vomiting everywhere last night.
Oh, lovely.
It's very pleasant. Yeah, I think there's a bug going around. Half the school was off today. It's like 2 days from the end of term, and half the school didn't turn up.
Oh, nice. Right, give it a try now, because I just unblocked or added your IP address to the whitelist.
Okay.
Let's send this link out.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
Right. I'll tweet the link. And then... Okay. Start the recorder. Right, I think we're ready. Let's go into the chat room. We've already got some people in the chat room. Hello there.
Hello, chat room. I'm fully multitasking. I've got the chat room snapped to the right on the desktop, news stories snapped to the left on the desktop, and Windows Mail Metro pinned to the left of the desktop.
Well, very, very multitasking. I'm just looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens at the moment.
Really? Oh yeah, but you're just not normal.
Yeah, because I've only got a few. I've less screens than normal. I know it's a bit of a nuisance. Right. Okay. So I think we're everything on there. Right. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ian. Good to be with you as always.
And welcome to everybody in the chat room. A few people in there, so Russell and who else have we got in there? A guest. And you.
And me.
Now, Gary is supposed to be joining us, and his head will be joining us, but he's had a problem with his car. So he said there was, I think it conked out on him. So I think you came up with what probably a good suggestion.
Yeah, I said his gearbox needs a firmware update.
Yeah.
He said his gearbox has failed, so he's rebooted it.
Yeah, that's right. It's got the HTC version that just randomly reboots itself.
Yeah.
But it's not doing that, which we can talk about as well.
Maybe it's a new form of droid rage.
Yeah, yeah, that didn't work too well, did it?
No, it didn't. Let's not go there.
Yeah. Right, so we've got plenty to talk about. We've got a tool that I've developed for Media Center and Surface. There's a Raspberry Pi store launched, App Store. Some Media Center, some VLC news, iTunes, some OpenELEC stuff. Now, Daniel Vieira was supposed to be joining us to talk about OpenELEC and MediaPortal and a few other things, but he said he was getting up at 4:30, so it was a bit late for him to record tonight.
Yeah, I didn't even know that time of the morning existed. Well, not since we had newborns anyway.
Yes, I remember it well then, but yeah, not something I liked anymore. So we've got plenty to talk about anyway. So, and this is our kind of our pre-Christmas show as well. So in fact, this is our Christmas special that's exactly the same as our normal schedule shows. The only difference...
we've got
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, something we've got a winner for the Gadget of the Year.
No, I think we're going to do that next week.
Okay.
No, but what it means is that you've got to wear a jumper with a reindeer on the front.
I'll see if I can get one knitted in time.
Yeah, you get one of them. And you might not be able to tell from the little picture, but we've transported the whole TDL studio to Lapland.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we're actually live from Lapland, although it may look like the inside of my office, but no. So it's our Christmas special.
You should have put a green screen up behind you, then you could have added it later.
With snow coming down behind.
Yeah.
I think it was the one show, I think last week or the week before, when I decided to record it live outside, and it looked absolutely freezing, like to pick the coldest day of the year to record it. Who thought that recording in a December evening would be a good idea outside?
Yeah, madness.
Right, well, we're not. We're nice and warm inside. So, like I said, plenty to talk about tonight. Hopefully, Gary, we should pick Gary later. And Russell said the video's frozen. Let's just check my monitor. It seems to be... on my monitor it's working, so maybe try a refresh or something. I can't check it because if I do, it'll go all funny. Anyway, right. Let's see. So, what's the first thing I want to talk about? Actually, is something I didn't have on the blog, but I think I'm going to get your thoughts on this. Google announced that they're killing off the Exchange Activesync format for Gmail. Now, no, you're not particularly a Gmail user, but as a Windows Phone user, this could be a problem, isn't it? Because Windows Phone only uses Exchange Activesync, or maybe you could use IMAP as well, but it hasn't got the thing for calendars. So what did you make of this? Did you see this story?
Yes, yeah, I did see that, and it certainly seems, that Google are trying to draw a line in the sand in terms of trying to, alienate other users. But, I can kind of, in some ways, I can kind of understand it. It just come with a license fee, but it seemed a bit odd that it's only for new users. And with it currently configured, we'll be able to continue to use it. It seems a bit strange, but I think I think it's a reflection of the battle lines that have been drawn. It's like when I used the Galaxy Tab, I found it really hard to get it to work with Microsoft services in a kind of fluid way. And I guess that's kind of the problem that you're going to hit with Windows Phone. And I think, it's a shame really, because we've talked before that although Windows Phone lends itself best to the Microsoft ecosystem, that's not what everyone wants to use. So, I think open standards are really, really important. And maybe it is the case that maybe Microsoft needs to adopt a more open standard in terms of a common synchronization technology rather than something that people need to license from them.
Yeah, I mean, the people it's going to affect is probably mostly someone like me who has Gmail and Google Apps, although actually doesn't affect Google Apps for domains now at the moment anyway. But someone who would do like I do, where you use Gmail and for calendar and everything else, and then when you come and try and sync that potentially with the Windows Phone in the future, it's not going to work anymore. But I guess it's also going to affect Surface as well, isn't it? The mail tool on Surface, because that's how I use the Activesync to connect to the mail app.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting that Google have also said they're not going to develop any further apps for kind of Windows Phone. I think even Windows 8. So it's not even like they're going to launch their own native email app.
Yeah, it just seems it's very disappointing. Really, I'm disappointed that they've sort of decided to do that, because also even on the iPhone, on the iPad particularly, where I use the Exchange Activesync to get my Gmail onto the iPad, so I'll have to go down the IMAP route, which I don't think is as nice. And maybe they want that, that Google's answer would be, well, use the built-in app, but I prefer not the built-in app, use the Gmail app. But I like the calendar sync and everything else, and you've got to you're gonna have to use CalDAV and all these kind of technologies to get it to work. So it just doesn't seem it's the Exchange actually was a very elegant solution, and I remember I used to have my iPhone connected before they had that, and it was a bit fiddly, and it's kind of a backward step for users.
Yeah, I remember the early Windows Mobile days when the only way you could really access Hotmail was using kind of Pop Mail, and then they announced that they were a sport Exchange Activesync, and it really changed the experience. And I think I just put in maybe a positive spin on it. Is Google worried about Windows Phone? That could be one explanation, or that they see it's been irrelevant, which is obviously not such a good thing.
Yeah, I think certainly I can maybe see that they would want to neglect Windows Phone, but not Windows 8 and Windows RT. Sure, I mean their Gmail, also their Google search app for Windows RT is actually pretty good at the one that's in the store. So I don't understand why they would want to cut themselves out of that. Maybe they will as it gets more popularity, but it does seem that it's a bit of a war with Microsoft, and the losers in it are people who use both services.
Yes, yeah. I mean, how does this? One thing I haven't read is how this impacts iOS and that platform.
Well, I think on iOS there is a Gmail app, but I was never that keen on it. I always preferred the built-in one, and you'd have to use IMAP and CalDAV or whatever it's called, the calendar sharing, which is, like I said, when I first got my iPhone before they were using Exchange Activesync, that's how I used to do it. And I think it's not as elegant a solution. It's not got the push and everything else. So it's a definite backward step, I think.
Yeah, certainly there's some danger of backlash, and I've seen from quite a few different sources people saying that they've switched from Gmail to Outlook since Outlook.com launched, because they just find the email system, the interface and experience much better than Gmail. I mean, I only kind of kept Gmail account, so I had access to Google Docs, one that we used to use for TDL Mobile. So, I don't use it. In fact, I don't even configure the account anymore on my Windows Phone. And I think if I was going to need a Gmail address, I've actually got my Gmail account configured as a Microsoft account anyway, so I'd probably just set it up to forward email there and send it via that route.
Yeah, I definitely think that if I wasn't using Android and iOS, then I would just switch my domain over to Outlook, because the web interface is quite nice anyway, and synchronization is no problem. And having your own sort of domain name, you can just switch it straight over to Hotmail. But where it becomes a pain is I do use a lot of Google services. I use the Google Reader, and I use Google Now on Android. And so as soon as you start using all these services, then you're at a disadvantage. And you shouldn't have to be compromised by your choice of platform. All the platforms should be able to play together nicely.
Yeah, and it does seem, we've talked before how Microsoft at long last seems to be adopting understanding that people aren't just going to use their devices, that they need to support a wide range of ecosystems, and yet, kind of Google appears to be going the other way. And actually, you make a good point. One of the things that I use, I use Google for my RSS feeds. So, although I use an app to plug into that Google service, that is one thing that I do rely on in terms of Google accounts.
Yeah, it's frustrating that they were going to penalise end users, and maybe they are just a very small amount of people that use Gmail and use Windows Phone, but for them it's a worse experience than it would be with the service. So it's a bit annoying, really.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think it's a strange decision, but clearly a battle line has been drawn, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, so that was and also just on that as well, not really directly related, but they're also making if you've got a Google Apps account, if you sign up for a new account, you have to pay. So the service I just registered, and I've got the digitallifestyle.com and registered it, and so I've got a Google Apps account, and it didn't cost me anything, but now you're going to have to pay for that going forward for a new account, but not for existing. But it does make you wonder how long they're going to keep that going before they say, oh, now we're going to make you pay as well. And if that goes ahead, then you've got to look at the value of the service, and that Outlook.com is very nice now, and certainly I would contemplate moving it over if it wasn't for things like Google Now and all the other things. So anyway, compromises again, and we shouldn't be compromised on that.
No, it makes a change talking about someone other than Microsoft, where they're inflicting their own. That used to be the Microsoft of old. Yeah.
Right, some other stuff we wanted to talk about. So, watching Media Center content on a Surface at the moment is fairly tricky. I don't know. You've tried to do this yet, but it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I saw your post about different ways, and I also saw your post on converting Media Center files, which looked really interesting.
Yeah, so I did a video. I think I talked about last week, and here's
Gary.
Here's Gary, but all my phones are now ringing at.
Yeah, there goes my Surface.
Yeah, I'll have to just join him. He can't call. I've got to invite him to the conference. I can hear your Surface going.
Yeah.
Surface is going.
Hello.
How's your firmware and your gearbox?
Needed replacing. I think it must have had a Patch Tuesday security upgrade or something. Don't let Gary drive me. Don't let Gary drive me.
So are you back home safe now, or have we got you from another roadside?
I'm in a hotel, but I was on the way back to the hotel anyway, so it wasn't away. But no, I was just driving. It's quite scary actually. I was driving along on the dual carriageway, and suddenly the gearbox said F in front of me, and the whole car just jarred ground to a halt in a very few seconds.
Oh, nice!
And this lorry skidded behind me, and it was all very dramatic, but soon sorted out though. So.
And the things you do just to get on the show.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you better listen to all the things we said about you on the download, but
as usual.
As usual, yes.
I'm getting used to that.
We're very kind. I think we've been very kind this week.
Yeah.
The only story we've really talked about so far was Google killing off the Exchange Activesync and sort of what that will effect it'll have for Windows Phone users. Now we're just going to talk about the watching Media Center TV on Surface, and actually this applies to Windows 8, Windows RT, and anything like that. So, I wanted to get some recorded TV onto my Surface. It's a great device for that, and I did post the story I talked about last week with different ways of doing this. And actually, I don't know. I recorded the video over the weekend before, something like that, and I showed DVBLink and I showed tuner free apps and all that. But did you see, in fact, a story we've got probably lined up, but we'll talk about this now anyway. Channel 4 launched an app for Windows Windows RT and Windows 8. So kind of my post is out of date already.
Yeah, I had a quick look at the 4OD app, and it's really nice, and it works really, really well. And also followed your post. So I've given Tuna Free a try, and also the TV catch up is a nice one. The IP address and port number, it just crashed on me.
It's I think it's early days. I think Gary, I remember saying it was a third party developer, wasn't it, that did the DVBLink app anyway? Yeah, but was. Yeah, I think I got it to work, but I think it's one of those things. Probably if it works straight away, then you're okay. But because there's not a lot of debugging options on that. But anyway, the Channel 4 the Channel 4 I noticed if you watch 4OD on just through the browser, the first advert before you watch any program is for the app as well. So obviously Microsoft and Channel 4 must have done some marketing deal around that. Anyway, so I wanted to get some of my existing content. I always have this, when I'm going traveling or a flight or whatever, going to CS, I always think, I want to take some TV stuff with me. So I looked at how I could get some recorded TV onto the Surface. Obviously, you've got to convert it. You can't play Media Center files, so I've been using Handbrake to do that, but I was getting bored manually finding the file, selecting it, converting it, moving it over. So what I wanted to do was to kind of add a one-click solution where I could say, okay, these files here, put them on the Surface. And so I did some investigation. There's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel, so I thought I'd use Handbrake because that's a great app for doing the conversion. It fixes audio problems and everything else. So, but it has a command line interface, so I could sort of automate that. So basically what the program does, allows you to browse for the location of your recorded TVs. So it could be on another server, it could be on your local one. And then it allows you to browse to a location where Handbrake's installed, and then it allows you to browse to the location where you want the finished files to be. Then you just click scan, it finds all the recorded TV files, you multi-select the ones you want, hit go, and off it goes. Now, the next thing I thought, well, I want to get this onto the Surface without me having to manually copy them over, so I'll just use Home Group. But it's something I wasn't aware of, but I don't know if you've noticed this, Jason, on yours, is that you can't actually share a folder out on, or you couldn't share a folder out on the Surface.
Oh no, that's not something that I tried to do. I obviously access the home server shares, but not the other way around.
You can't share or out the box. You can't share a folder, and this is because the server service is disabled on Windows RT, which prevents. And that server service is what the file sharing system uses. So I don't know why. I presume it's a memory consideration, something like that. Gary, maybe you've got an idea on that.
Yeah, it might be, because that does take a lot of memory up potentially, and it's
resource
intensive. Yeah, it's resource intensive, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, so you can start the Surface, and it will then enable sharing. So I shared a folder out, so I've installed my program on my Media Center machine. So I just click scan, it browses through the files. I click which ones I want to go, and then it just copies them all over to the Surface, and you can watch them fine using the built-in media app. So I've stuck it up on the site, so there's a link in the show notes. Anybody can give it a try. It's early days yet. I've only really just started with it, and I'm sure there would be things like people like it, so if you could auto schedule and also maybe it could keep a track of what it's done, so it doesn't try and redo things and things like that. But early days yet. So anyway, anyone can give it a try. But I think it's a nice little tool. Anyway, it was just something I wanted to sort of save a few clicks around.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly a great tool to have. I mean, like you say, it's a shame really that Media Center files aren't supported natively. It's not something that necessarily I'd want to do all the time. But say when you're traveling, just taking a couple of TV shows with you when you particularly with a lot of the on-demand services being tied to UK IP address ranges and things like that. It's always good to be able to take stuff with you.
And really as well, at the moment I limited it to WTV files, but you could actually use it for any file. So you could stick in MKV files. I could adapt the program because Handbrake's so great. It kind of works out the input format. So you could use it for anything really. And the other thing you can do as well is you don't have to enable the shares. You could do it to a USB stick and just stick all the video files on the USB stick and then play them from there. or stick them on a folder and then use a DLNA server to stream them, and then use a DLNA client on the Surface or something like that. And of course, it also is helpful for if you've got a Windows 8 machine without Media Center installed and you want to just watch content, then this would work as well.
Yeah, so presumably that would work with ripped DVDs and whatnot, albeit probably without the subtitles.
Yeah, it just uses the sort of Handbrake's default, or one of Handbrake's. I think I did it for iPad, sort of the iPad HD format or something like that. The MP4. Handbrake is so powerful and flexible that there's really a lot more I could do around it, and let you have the options to tinker with your own settings and whatever you want. But I kept it fairly basic for now. And it's click once as well. I do like click once apps, so as I do the update, it'll push the updates out automatically. So I'm going to make it free and then charge for it £3,000 once you.
In-app purchase, of course.
That's a very good idea. Yeah. No, it's completely free, and unlike Google, I won't discontinue it straight away. Okay, so that's anyway. Link for that in the in the show notes. Right, some of the stuff I wanted to talk about today. Oh, Raspberry Pi launched an app store. Now, Gary, you've still not got your Raspberry Pi yet, have you?
No, I haven't. Maybe Christmas.
Yeah, but this is actually quite interesting for so one of the things that we've always talked about the Raspberry Pi is to get more developers interested in and younger developers as well. So the Raspberry Pi Foundation have launched the Raspberry Pi Store, and they've got a little sort of add-in that runs from the Raspberry Pi, but I think it's designed really for easy access for developers to get their apps in there. So free or whatever you want to do. And I think they're trying to encourage some, particularly younger developers to have a go, get their app up there, and maybe just get a couple of quid out of it. And even if I think some of them are free, but you can sort of tip them if you like it, and really just a bit of encouragement for developers getting started into the Raspberry Pi. So it's not a big sort of business thing like the iOS store or whatever, but it's a nice way to bring things together. And there's things like the Open Office in there and games and things like that. So good idea, do you think, guys?
Yeah, I like the idea of App Store for Pi. That's good.
Yeah, just if it encourages a few people, I think that's a nice thing.
Yeah, I'm just a Pi store. So to do a good name for it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I'll link for that in the show notes, and I think you just need to get your Raspbian and build updated and be in there. But pretty a nice idea, and maybe I encourage my kids to get a bit more programming done and get something uploaded in there. Okay, the next one, VLC. Have any of you used VLC?
Yep, you use it a lot.
Yep. So VLC 2.0.5 Two Flower has been released.
Yep.
Quite a few, but I think mainly bug fixes in this one, wasn't there? Just bring notes.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't actually see what the release notes said on it. So.
Yeah, I think I just saw it updating and I started to download. They're still about halfway through, I think, their target for the Kickstarter project to get it on Windows 8, Windows RT. We talked about it last week, I think, but I really like to see that on RT, because then that would possibly mean that you wouldn't need to convert the files. You just need to move them over from Media Center straight, and it should be able to play them, because I think VLC will play them anyway. Yeah, I think this one is a big bug fixes for MKV, and it was some improvements on the macOS user interface as well. So, nice free app anyway. Always worth it. It's probably the first thing that I install on a Windows machine. Other updates this week. I don't know, Jason, you noticed the news, weather, travel, sport, and finance apps were updated.
Yes, yeah, I did see that. I didn't really look at a lot of detail in terms of the release notes and everything, but I guess they're all pretty much coming from the Bing team, aren't they? So
yeah,
it's the mail app I really want to see updated.
Well, this is what I put. The app that needs the most. Well, the two things that need the most updating for me, it's the people app, but the mail and the people are very similar. In both needing some serious work on them. Unfortunately, they've not touched that.
Yeah, it's a shame really because it's given a bad first image.
Yeah, I think that and the music app, and also I was having a brief conversation on Twitter. I think it was yesterday that, I'm really surprised at the quality of the Twitter apps that are coming along. Given how great they are on Windows Phone, I really hope that someone would come along and at least kind of match that level of functionality. And I don't know if it's the platform that's lacking or if it's just experience of developing on the platform, but just simple things.
Yeah, I think some of that experience of developing, because it is actually a different platform. Although for all this sort of it's a common platform between Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8, it's not. It might be a platform. It is the same platform under the skin, but the way you develop on it is different. Different XAML, different ways of actually designing his screens. So it does take a little bit to convert between the two. It's slightly easier to go from Windows 8 to Windows Phone 8 rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's an example is Rowie. It's one of my absolute favorite Twitter apps on Windows Phone, and the Windows 8 version seems to be just nowhere near to the same standard. It's like, one of the things I like about Rowie on Windows Phone is that I start it up and it picks up the last tweet that I read, the last point that I exited the app, and then it downloads the next 200 tweets or however many are outstanding, and then I can just start scrolling forward through the timeline, whereas all the ones on Windows 8 RT always start from the most recent tweet, and then you kind of scrolling back down, and then the streaming kicks in and the screen's just jumping all over the place. It just makes them completely unusable.
Yeah, there's a lot of state management is difficult to achieve in Windows 8, more so than Windows Phone 8. To be honest, the Windows 8 what we quote Metro stuff is still pretty immature for a development environment. It needs some work.
Yeah, and in some ways, that's kind of, from a consumer perspective, that's kind of disappointing, and that's where I really hope we see some really quick updates to improve the platform, because I think it really needs it.
I just love to get my apps actually published. Quite a funny story actually. When you sign up for a Windows 8 developer account, you have to use a credit card to sign up for it. It doesn't take any money off it necessarily, depending how you're logging on, if you use an MSDN account or whatever. But when you do that, it sort of authenticates against the card by putting a small payment charge on your card, and you get the number back for that. And then when you go back in, it always asks for the CVV number of the card to authenticate. Now this is fine if your credit card company doesn't change your credit card in between the authenticating and you getting back to your account, which is what's happened with me. I reissued a completely different card with a different CVV number. I made the mistake of cutting up my old card. I have no idea what my old CVV number is. I cannot get into my account to do anything like setting up payment methods or anything like that. So Microsoft have been working on this now for about the last 2.5 weeks to see if they can find a solution.
Oh, no.
So it's quite a challenge, I think.
And I suppose this is just because it's an immature platform. These are the kind of things that maybe they've just not come across before.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the idea of locking down the account and it's secure and nobody else can get into it, but there needs to be a way around it.
But actually, if you could get into your own account at some point.
Yeah. Because I've got apps waiting to go up. I've got quite a few apps now sitting there, one of which has actually been approved, which I'm rather pleased by. So I've got stuff ready to go up, but I can't get it up there.
There's a show title. I
just put them out there. Every week I plan this, you see.
Every week there's one in there.
Yeah. So I've had to take over because our man's not here with his glitter ball and his.
Yes, we're gonna have to try and grab him out. I'm gonna doorstep him when we get at CES. Just going to turn up with the microphone if he's not on stage, of course.
Oh yeah, probably on stage.
So those apps have been updated. Like we said, unfortunately, the ones that we want updating haven't been updated. But it's for now. You see, like the Channel 4 app or the 4OD app we talked about before, it's very good quality, and so I think it is certainly possible to do good quality. I think perhaps the combination of the immature APIs and the Twitter APIs are a bit. I haven't tried it myself, but I've seen developers on Twitter saying they're a bit fiddly to work with. So I think it's a combination of the two make it quite difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it is possible to get good apps. You just have to wait to see mine.
Yeah. We'll wait and see. Yeah, if you ever get into it.
I think a good example is the 4OD app, because one of the things I tried immediately was scrolling left to right, and it was really nice. And then I don't know if you've tried the Amazon app, Ian, but I found that the side scrolling to be really jerky and slow.
Yeah, I've only had a quick play on the Amazon, to be honest. I haven't done much with it, whereas I've watched a few things on the Channel 4, so yeah. I thought the eBay app seemed quite good on Windows 8, or on the Surface anyway.
Since the last update, it's got a lot better.
Yeah. Anyway, so the apps have been updated, so you should have got those. We've got a question from the chat room from John Hill. Have I got the Seaton Echo extender? No, I haven't yet. Still waiting for that. So I'm hoping I'll catch up with Seaton if they're around at CES, so I might be able to go and have a look at one again, like I saw it last year, and ask them about what the Android version, well, the Android apps are going to be like. Oh yeah, I know. And Russell says it looks nice, but to what I've read, they're not supporting MKV Blu-ray formats directly. That's not a surprise really, because they're for a little player like that, they're probably quite a high format and really not something that Media Center was ever designed to support. So you might be converting your MKVs and Blu-rays to MP4s before you get them on the Seaton box.
They work on WMVs as well.
Yeah, I mean, WMV is fine, isn't it? But MKVs have always been a bit problematic. Right, so different. So we were going to talk XBMC, but not this, because Daniel will be asleep by now. OpenELEC is up to OpenELEC 3 is up to beta 5, which includes the XBMC Frodo release candidate 1. So it gets quite confusing, these numbers, but just to recap, the OpenELEC is an embedded version of XBMC. So XBMC is up to Frodo release candidate 1, and therefore OpenELEC is up to version 3 beta 5, which includes the XBMC. If that's nice and clear now.
Very clear.
Yeah.
I'm totally the wiser.
Yeah. Basically, if you're using XBMC, you know what I'm talking about. And I've got that on my list to do some more stuff with over Christmas. Changing products slightly, DVBLink 4.5.2 was released this week. Gary, what's new in that?
That's a very good question. You've got the sort of their equivalent of the App Store, which isn't really, just lets you pick up the different components. Quite a few bug fixes, some work on the NAS type of stuff, which is definitely their focus now. They're moving far more onto working with the NAS stuff than the Media Center stuff. Although we have had the question and answer, which we also posted on the site, which covers a lot of that off, and they're still going to support the Media Center side of things. Quite a few fixes and tweaks and things in there. Generally quite a nice release. I had a quick play with it. I haven't had a lot of time to play with it, but it does seem a little bit more reliable than the previous release.
Right.
I don't know if Jason's had any experience, because I know you've been having the dreaded errors with it.
Oh yeah, I've been having a right time with DVBLink at the moment. But to be fair to the package, it's nothing to do with the software. It's as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I upgraded our home server to an old Core 2 Duo motherboard and CPU, and was just getting every recording, or pretty much every other recording, failing with weak signal errors. Oberon on the forums was really helpful. So in the end, I've actually had to switch the motherboard and CPU back to the old Celeron D1. Unfortunately, I've kind of lost a few of the streaming features, but I had given 4.5.2 a try, the beta, but kept getting 100% CPU usage. But that was before I switched the motherboard back, so I shall probably try upgrading again and see where that gets me.
Yeah, I think it does use a bit more CPU, but so you can adjust that with the CPU usage. One really quite exciting thing in 4.5.2, which may sort of go past people, is the SAT IP support. Does anybody know what SAT IP is?
So this is a satellite-based IP tuner? Sort
of, yeah. It's a support for satellite for streaming over IP from satellite boxes,
right.
and different manufacturers, including Sky in the UK, have said they're going to support this.
So the signal still comes down over satellite, but instead of it being whatever MPEG compression, it's IP.
Well, no, it still comes to the satellite as normal, but
Right.
the box will then convert it to IP for in use in house. So
Right.
So it's like a way of getting second room TV, but it's a supported protocol. It's encrypted in some way so that they're happy to use it, and you should be able to buy this as an option on things like your Sky Plus box eventually.
Right. So they could effectively have an extender almost for
and
Sky Plus box.
And that will mean you can actually use DVBLink to interface into that, which might mean you can get Sky back into Media Center.
Well, that would be nice, but I just can't see how they'd allow it through the DRM issues.
Well, I think this is the SAT ICP support is with the DRM, so I'm assuming that they've gone full body on that. I mean, it's an international standard, so
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real details. There was just sort of like an announcement a few years, well, probably a year back now, saying they would support the SAT IP standard.
Yeah, and Russell says you'd probably get one channel per box. It would be dependent, but does it work? The satellite broadcast works a bit like DVB-T, where it broadcasts a MUX, doesn't it? And you pick up on that. Yeah. That'd be it's certainly interesting to see, and it would certainly be. It's probably too late now, but it would be nice to see it get into Media Center. Although it would be great for me, I'd use that. I think. Although I kind of use my Media Center box now as a secondary recording device. So if everything gets recorded through the Sky box first, and if all tuners are in use, then I go and record it on Media Center.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to get some Sky, some of the Sky stuff and get that converted to MP4 and get that on the surface. Yeah, dream that's not going to happen.
I don't know how far down the road it is, but certainly it's out there, and it's good to see DVB Logic supporting it, because I don't think there's many other people actually supporting it as a client at the moment. Although some of the TVs are supposed to be doing it in the future. I think people like Samsung and Philips have said they'll support it in the future.
Yeah, and that would be. I could see that being more of a reality.
Presumably the recorded TV files would be protected.
One would assume so.
Yeah. When I have you're not going to. Oh, that should something I didn't mention when I was talking about the tool that I developed. If your Media Center files are DRM protected, if they're recorded with cable card in the US, then you can't use Handbrake to convert them, so it doesn't work. So only non-protected stuff. So anything in the UK will be fine.
Yeah. And the other thing that 4.5.2 brings in a bit better way is the support for ClearCom and ATSC in the States. So if anybody's using ClearCom, they've got the ability to use DVB-Link TV source now properly.
Right.
It's been there for a while, but this is a much better release for that.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, I posted the Q&A with DVB Logic with Pavlo, so a link for that in the show notes. So I think quite a few people sent in questions, and some were quite similar, so I kind of grouped them together, and he's answered all those. So a link for those in the show notes.
Yep. Yeah, I also noticed that he provided some information in response to the questions on the Play Radio, and I thought there's some good information that it really is a difficult one for them to track down, because the actual error is, as Gary's pointed out many times, it's just that no stream is coming in, so the DRM kicks in and thinks that there's been an error in the decoding, but it's just that either the tuners haven't tuned to the channel in time, or that some kind of network connectivity issues prevented the stream from starting up, which certainly corresponds to problems that I've been having recently, and still do have even with the old motherboard. But it generally is just that the Hawkpoint tuners I've got just haven't tuned quick enough.
Yeah, I think that seems to be one issue, isn't it? The tuner picking up the speed.
Yeah, and one of the things I actually posted in the DVLink forums today was that in all my messing around over the last 2 or 3 weeks trying to get my system stable, is I've discovered that the way I configure the tuners, I just added them to DVB-Link in a sequential order, and what it meant was that the first tuner that DVB-Link allocates the last tuner first, and then works in reverse. So I found that it was actually allocating the second tuner on the second card as the first allocated tuner. So I've actually switched it around now, so that the first 2 tuners are actually the first tuner on each of my cards, and that seems to reduce the play ready errors. It's almost like the second tuner just reacts that bit slower.
Right. Yeah, I suppose so I come across this, but like I said before, I'm not using the machine with DVBLink on as an active sort of permanent machine. It's more for testing and playing around with. So I think if I was using it more for real-time use, I'd probably see more errors. I just something for Gary. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Gary. And John says, but he got Raspberry Pi working with XBMC from JRiver as a zone, but to stream Spotify to the Pi from JRiver is beyond me.
It can be done. It can be done. You just need to open Spotify in the web browser within JRiver, and then you should be able to do it.
Oh, and then that could be used as a zone to.
Then you split it into the zone. Certainly with the new stuff they're putting together, there's still some talk they may have a native Spotify app. But I mean, the problem at the moment is obviously that you can only do that if you've got the beta of Spotify, which allows you to run it as a web app. Because at the moment it's obviously a standalone app.
Right.
So it might be that he hasn't got that yet. John hasn't got that yet, but hopefully at some point in the future that will be the standard for everybody.
Yeah, I think the combination of JRiver as a sort of server and then using Raspberry Pi as an extender with XBMC is a nice way of working, because you could get a few of those for not very much money.
Yeah. I think the other really neat thing with this whole automatic zone switching is really impressive actually when you start looking at what you can do with that. You can actually switch on. You can have a playlist of different songs, and you can switch to different music outputs based on the song playing. Yeah. So you can have sort of like, and it will then play the next. Because it knows it's then got the zone you're on free, it'll play the next thing from the playlist on that if it fits in that. So it really is clever stuff. Just have one playlist and play it in different places in the house.
So depending on what the song is, you could be in a different room. Well,
yeah. So for your example, you've got your music. Kim's got her music. Yeah. You should put it in one playlist, but Kim's plays in the kitchen, yours plays in the workshop, in the music room.
That's a very good idea. I'm going to have to go with that. You're just adding things to my list of things I need to play with over Christmas. Now, I'm happy to leave you as our JRiver expert. I think, it does look good. I mean, I enjoyed when I saw it at the user group. It's a really sophisticated program, and I think for music fans, it's definitely worth having a look at.
Yeah, I mean, you do need to work on it to get it to do what you want to do. But once you've got it set up, it's pretty rock solid. So, I have heard some audiophiles complain that the latest version is not as good sound quality as the previous version. I can't really figure that out why that would be. I know they're looking at that. So, but they've done virtually everything they said they would do when we spoke to them.
Yeah.
I think the only thing still left to do is to fade out on the theatre mode, and that will be the last thing which will prevent me using it as my main thing. I won't use for music on my media center. Right. Well, I have to say that the loopback thing they did, which allows you to play media center through the JRiver, is working really well now with the new version.
Excellent. Right, some other stuff I wanted to talk about. MediaPortal 1.3 has been released. This is one for Daniel as well, so maybe we'll catch up with this on a future show. Yeah. So this has got a nice new skin to it. It looks really nice, actually.
It always looks very nice. It's one of those products which just always looks really good.
Yeah, and I haven't done a lot with it, but I know Daniel really likes it, and for it as a Windows Server program and then different clients, I think it's a nice application.
Yeah, it is.
Right. Surfaces are on sale in the UK, other than just the Microsoft online store this week. I think over the weekend, John Lewis has started selling the Surfaces, and I haven't gone anywhere near a store where they've got a John Lewis. The one that closest to me, the Trafford Centre near Manchester, is a place I would not like to go to at this time of year, definitely. But they are actually selling the Surfaces, I think, sell online and in stores, and a couple of people on Twitter have said they're there.
I know someone who works in our local John Lewis and said they sold out within about 4 hours of them going on display.
Right. Oh, well, that's at least a sign. I know that I forgot who told me that. Someone on Twitter told me that they only had Office on there, which was a bit boring, really. It was. I'm just going to make sure I tell. I think it was Simon. Yeah, Simon Conquest on Twitter. He said they've got them in there, but it only had Office on it. So I think they need to make sure they've got games and things that kids will play on as well, just to show you the scope of things. But at least we've had quite a few listeners contact us and say, where can we play on one just to see, and then they may want to order it directly from Microsoft, but at least you can go and play on one.
Yeah, indeed.
I think it's I think it's really good, as you say, for people to get hands-on time, and I might well find myself in the John Lewis store tomorrow, so I shall see what there is. But also, I saw the John Lewis retail Twitter account said that it comes with a free 2-year guarantee, so that's actually a year more than you get buying it online at the Microsoft store.
Right.
At no cost, and also, I've seen there's a John Lewis app, although it only seems to be kind of promoted products, but with most things taking you then off to the John Lewis website. So it'd be nice to see that app get a bit more love in the future.
Yeah,
it's a nice looking app, but it's not. It's a bit limited. One thing interesting in my local John Lewis is that they seem to have, I think I counted 8 different touchscreen, either laptops or convertibles or different types of tablet for Win 8 actually on display, including the Surface.
Right.
So it shows it's out there. Some different manufacturers. Still quite like Sony, bit pricey. Samsung's Active is nice, but really expensive. But there is a really, I think it's $399 touchscreen Atom-based Acer. Based, sort of almost like a netbook, but with Windows 8 with a touchscreen. And that seemed to be quite responsive.
Is that the W5 what something? No, sort of the successor to the one that you've got, Jason?
No, I don't think it is, because it hasn't got a separate. This is actually a netbook basically. So
right.
it doesn't. The keyboard doesn't detach on this one, but
right.
But an interesting concept to have a touchscreen netbook.
I wonder if we're going to see. Because if you think back to when tablet PCs first came out with Windows XP Tablet PC Edition, we had a whole range of devices came out, like HP with a detachable keyboard, and some with a foldable keyboard. And eventually, over time, we just ended up with the standard laptop ones with a foldable keyboard, and then they kind of faded out completely. Yeah. So I wonder if we'll see that, where we'll see a standard form factor, or whether this is sort of the beginning of the era of various form factors, and they'll come in all sorts of shapes and sizes going forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it certainly suits a lot of form factors. I mean, I've gone back to some of my really old ancient, the old Sony. I can't think the model number, but the really tiny Sony
P1.
handheld. No, before that, the
VGN.
Yeah, that's
what
the
I've
VGN.
got. Yeah.
So that really suits Windows 8. I've been running that on there, and you can, even though it's a tiny screen, you can really get the functionality works really well. And I think it shows that you could have a really small Windows 8 machine, and it would work quite well. So like a 5-inch or 6-inch display.
I think there's rumours, isn't there, that there's sort of a Code Blue or whatever is the Project Blue for Microsoft to work on, is to bring Windows 8 to 7-inch devices. But I think to do that, they need to make sure that really the desktop needs to be killed before.
Yeah, you can't really use the desktop, but it does work on the Windows 8 apps.
Yeah, but although then again, saying that, just to contradict myself, I've found that if you do need to go to the desktop with the Surface, you've got the great keyboard and mouse anyway, so it's not really that much problem. So maybe you could get away with it, but I still think you would need some kind of keyboard. For a 7-inch Surface might be nice. Although I can't have any more devices.
Yeah, I think we've gone by with the Iconia for a year before I got the Surface, and we didn't bother getting the keyboard for that. And there certainly are times when I do wish I'd got it just to quickly chuck it on and maybe tweak a few settings or just quickly type on it. But so for the moment, I thought, because from my perspective, I see Windows tablets as being more than the kind of iPad, Android equivalents. I think there was always going to be that need for a keyboard, and that's kind of why I like the Surface, because it is so light, and you barely notice it's attached.
I think certainly my continued use of the Surface it's the best of both worlds. It's a tablet when you want it to be, and it's a laptop when you want it to be.
Yeah, I think the only thing I might have quite liked to see with the Surface Pro would be to have some kind of dock incorporated into it. Not quite sure exactly how that would work, but I think it'd be really nice with having the Core i5 of just having a dock sitting on the desk in the study where you just kind of dock it in and the keyboards and mouse are already attached.
Yeah, and I suppose they could do it with the with this multi-pin. If you look, I'll put it on the screen. You've got the multi-pin connector on the bottom where the keyboard attaches. So what's to stop Microsoft coming out with a little dock that you click that into, and that's your that's your desktop machine, and then you take it out and you have the touch keyboard or the type keyboard with you.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be interesting. I think with the Surface Pro, just to see just how much that fan kicks in. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing the reviews.
Yeah.
Because obviously it is a Core i5, so
it's going to get hot.
It's the mobile edition, but it's still going to have that potential for getting quite hot, which is something that you just don't see on iPads or Android tablets.
Although my iPad 3 gets warm occasionally, the Surface I find doesn't really get warm, and my MacBook Air gets warm sometimes. So of the three devices, I think the Surface is probably runs the coolest.
But still, I still really love every time I pick up the Surface, just the quality. It's just really still is a real pleasure to hold and handle the device.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still it's definitely of all the devices I've probably got this year, maybe the Raspberry Pi, but this has definitely been the thing that I've enjoyed using the most.
And the Iconi that we've got is a great device, and it still gets a lot of use. But you whenever you pick it up, it just feels plasticky and cheap. The experience isn't cheap of using it, but the tactile feeling you get of holding it just feels plasticky. And
yeah. I the Surface I think it's had a lot of it's had a hard time in the press, I should say, who either have got their own agenda or just generally doesn't suit how the reviewer particularly works. But for me, it's working great, and I use it sometimes during the day when I'm at work, but most of the time I'm using my work machine. But then at home in the evening for blog posts and browsing the web or whatever, I use it all the time. So I'm definitely getting my use out of it. A couple of other things. When we have to take a moment to commemorate the shutting down of Live Mesh. Now, I think this shuts down February 13th, so if you've got any files synced on there, you need to make sure you've got them off and you've got alternatives in place. But when I was doing the post, I kind of looked back at some of where we've talked about it in the past, and the potential of Live Mesh when it first was announced in 2008. I think we talked about it on the show, Gary. It was an operating system, wasn't it? And it had a massive potential. It just never really went anywhere.
Yeah. It used to be really good, and it actually got worse over time. It's one of those really strange Microsoft products. It started off really, really good and just got sucked away at.
Yeah, when it first started, you had the web interface with that sort of with the devices on there. You had the optional syncing. You had the optional web syncing as well. It was supposed to be a platform for other applications to sync with. It had this massive potential to be a complete sort of cloud-based operating system almost, and you said over time features got pulled. It didn't fit in with the Sinofsky Windows vision, I think, and it was a Railsy product, and it just became sort of diluted over time. And now SkyDrive is the chosen sync product, and we just have to live with that. But we do. I miss the sort of the desktop and all that kind of stuff on it.
There was nothing really better for device to device syncing. It just really worked for that scenario. And you've got the Dropboxes of the world and the SkyDrives, but nothing really does that as well. I mean, there's a couple of startups at the moment looking. Some ex-Google employees are trying to do one, which I've completely forgotten the name of, but I'll try and look up. But there's the idea of just actually syncing without having to have a server in the way, which you could do with Live Mesh when it first came out.
And I used to like the desktop as well. Go ahead, Jace.
Yeah,
I was going to say, Live Mesh just had such a great peer-to-peer sync mechanism.
Yeah, it did.
And it was one of the first apps I always used to put on every time I reset my Windows mobile device. It was one of the first apps that went back on and plugged it into the pictures folder, so that when I took pictures on my Windows mobile device, they were automatically uploaded to the cloud. share out the folder with the pictures in to friends and family, and they instantly get to see, any holiday snaps literally as you take them.
Mm.
And I know you can get the same experience, but just so the peer-to-peer stuff is the biggest missing piece of the puzzle, really.
And also the things like you could choose to sync a folder peer-to-peer and sync it to the cloud, or you could sync it just peer-to-peer. I used to like that as well. But the other thing really was the potential for application synchronization. So apps could use it to, third-party apps could perhaps use it, and that really never arrived, that functionality. But it was definitely there, and I think perhaps SkyDrive's filling that role now.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so anyway, 13th, February 13th, make sure you've got off that. Okay, well, we've got a couple more stories for... BBC iPlayer for Android's been updated and now works on Android 4.2. Nice. I saw a post on the BBC actually about supporting Android and how difficult it was with all the sort of fragmentation. So, it's great with Android to get the flexibility of the different devices, but it does cause developers some issues. And the BBC are saying they've had to sort of get extra resources in to support the devices, and that's why the iOS versions always kind of got more features than the Android version, which is behind because it's easy to develop for iOS, just the range of platforms.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I tweeted that out there and got a reply back from James Montemagno from Seaton. And he seemed quite taken aback by that story, because he was saying that it seems to me like he was saying that developers have kind of dropped the ball, that actually there aren't necessarily all these barriers in place. But Gary, I know you've done a lot of development for Android, so I'd be interested to hear your take on it.
I don't actually think that what they're saying is true. I know there's a lot of fragmentation out there, and it may be because of the video stuff and that they're having issues, but I've never found it difficult to write for different platforms and get them to resize properly and things like that. You just do it as part of the nature. I mean, it's easy if you don't use the native Android tools, which I don't think James does either. I think he uses the mono stuff for Android to actually develop. So that may be why he's finding it easy to do. I use something called Basic for Android, which works just as well. And they allow you to rescale screens and things like that. And if you get your layouts right, it's not too difficult to get them to work on lots of different platforms. But maybe they went the native route and did it the difficult way.
Yeah, and I suppose they've got, like you said, when it comes to video formats, that's maybe where some of the issues are. I mean, if you look at the capabilities of an Android 1.6 device from 2 years ago with the latest, Nexus, there's a huge gap.
Yeah, there is, and you might take the view that you don't support anything prior to 1.5, for example.
Yeah.
That would be a reasonable view to take. I think most people have upgraded these days, so I totally understand fragmentation, and it is a potential real problem for Android. I mean, it does tend to weigh you back. You don't tend to do the updates to support things like JDB and that, where you could do extra stuff. So there is that. You tend to take the lowest common denominator, and maybe BBC didn't want to do that. So I can see that, but it's just not quite doesn't quite ring true to me.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And of course, there still no support at all for Windows Phone from BBC.
No, or Windows 8 for that matter.
No, I'd like to see, hopefully when they see the 4OD app, they've done such a good job, and I'm sure Microsoft, maybe not necessarily paid is the right word, but certainly it was. I'm sure it was some kind of joint marketing effort from Microsoft and Channel 4. But it's a great looking app, and I think that just shows that you can do it. And I imagine they did that fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Microsoft have got a relationship with BBC and even with Channel 5 in terms of the Xbox app. So I really hope they are working with them to get those on there.
Yeah, we'd like to see those for Christmas, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a correction, like similar that I said I think a couple of weeks ago regarding the Surface, and I think I mentioned that I was having some flash issues. And it turns out I was wrong, so apologies. That actually on the Surface, on RT, the same flash whitelist applies to both the Metro and the desktop version of IE10.
Right, I thought that was the case, yeah.
Yeah, so apologies on that. It's actually only on Windows 8 where it's different, which seems a bit of a shame, really. That there isn't some kind of advanced user setting that you can say, no, on the desktop I'm happy to take the hit in terms of battery life.
Yeah, it just seemed a bit daft. Yeah, because I seem to remember, I think the TDL little audio playback is a Flash thing, and I think there's a HTML version, there's a Flash one, and it detects, I think, via your operating system, but I think on Surface it still thinks it's got Flash and doesn't work. So it just even if you know whichever version you're in. So yeah, little niggle, but I think there was a hack, wasn't there, for something to do with that?
Sorry, say again.
I think there might have been a hack to edit the whitelist.
There is. I found this was when I was looking around on the MSDN site where I found the information regarding the whitelist, and there is a supported developer config you can do within the registry,
right.
Whereby you can specify a URL that gets added, so that developers can test their sites. But I'm not sure how well supported that is.
Yeah, I think you should remember there was a hack that you could allow to edit it. It might be the same thing, but then the whitelist gets refreshed fairly frequently, and you would lose your changes.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
it's slightly frustrating for me because one of the sites I use is one of these survey sites where you get emailed, so there's a new survey for you. It's been really useful being able to do them on the Surface, because this means I can sit on the sofa and do them. But
yeah,
obviously a lot of them are Flash based, and they just don't work. So I end up having to come back into the study, which kind of defeats the object.
Yeah, and I think the Flash and Silverlight thing is an issue, and you think it should be up to the user. I'm quite happy with my battery life, and while I'm around the home and things, it's not an issue. So maybe I should be able to turn it on, and then when I know I'm going to be out all day, I can turn it off again. But I suppose that level of complexity is something that they don't necessarily want to give end users.
Yeah, understandably.
Okay, well, I think that's everything I had time for this week's show. So it's Christmas next week, so we're definitely not recording next Tuesday.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
They would be in trouble then.
Yeah, not off, Gary, not off.
Well, not for Gary, he'll be working.
Yeah, I might well be.
Yeah. You'll be trying to get it up.
Yeah, obviously.
Your applications.
Yeah, the applications. My target is to get it up before Christmas.
Well, that's always a great target to have.
Maybe you should look into a firmware update for it, Gary.
But this could go really wrong, couldn't it? Actually, I think it already has.
Yeah, I think Sid James is waiting to come.
Yeah.
So I think we may look at doing one between Christmas and New Year. We'll get together and we'll work out some dates. So probably best if anyone just follows us on Twitter for the information on that, because we have got our Gadget of the Year, which the vote page is up as well. So just give us your Twitter accounts, Jason.
I'm at Database Jace.
And Gary, where do we find you?
At Gary with 2 R's, WMA.
And thanks everybody in the chat room. We're quite busy in there tonight. And so I hope all listeners have a great Christmas, and I hope you get all the gadgets that you wanted, and maybe some you didn't even ask for as well. So we should be back after Christmas. So Jace, have a good Christmas, and you too, Gary, and we'll just see you next week at some point.
Yep, happy Christmas to you both and to all the listeners.
Yep, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hey, it's our Christmas special.
This is where we break out into song.
Perhaps not.
Perhaps not. It's weird. No drink inside, then it's definitely not good. All right, thanks to everyone else. I'll stop the stream.